Hello, everyone. It's been a while. We have been hiding in our rooms for quite a long time now in this lockdown. We are now back in a different format. The world's a different place since last we saw each other, but we're trying to do our best to keep in touch. And our guys at social media have been trying to sort of keep you entertained in the channel for quite a long time now. It's time to go back with our faces. It's time to go back with some new formats and hopefully get back in the swing of things in a different way, but hopefully in a way that you find interesting and relevant for to understand what's happening in the Slytherin world. As you know, we've just recently announced a thing called K Project, which is it's a project that we have been working on for quite a while now, but we have been we thought it was the right time to do it, to make it public during this health crisis and with everything going on, because it is a project that's really addressing an important key issue in the market, which is how indie developers are going to face this phase. For us publishers and developers that are already established, this crisis has just only mildly impacted our current day by day, but for many smaller developers, it's really been in trouble. So the K Project is really a way for us to sort of give back to the indie community. We have a page on our site that you can find out, slytherin.com/K Project, and then you'll see what it's about. So it's basically a fund that we have created to help indie development teams to complete their projects and bring them to market. Of course, for us, it's only strategy games. And we have put $100,000 in the pot already, but in the future, new games that are releasing under this label are going to contribute with a percentage of turnover to increase the fund and then fund new projects in the future. The first game we already had signed up before we sort of started the new label, is a game called Tactical Troops Anthracite Shift. It's a game made by a Polish studio, QED, and I've got here with me Rafał today, and he's the head of development at QED. Rafał, welcome to our Dev Talk, our first Dev Talk.
Hello, nice to be here.
And we are going to try and sort of shed some light on what Tactical Troops is, what QED is doing, but also, a little bit of an insight on what it actually means being an indie development studio nowadays. And hopefully you guys out there are going to be having some questions we can answer later on. And in about 35 minutes, we'll have our first look into the game with a multiplayer match between two of our very cool and entertaining streamers. So without further ado, Rafał, just to start with, can you give us a quick overview of what QED is, what you're doing, and how you started?
Sure. The QED Games is part of QED Software. Our company focuses mostly on AI solutions, mainly for games, but not limited to them. Currently, we're developing two products worth mentioning in our talk that's connected to the game world. First is Grail. It's a library for game developers, allowing quite easy implementation of AI to their games, and this library is used in our Tactical Troops games. Another example of interesting project is Sensei system that analyzes games, analyzes how player plays the current game, and advises the player about possible improvements of his play style. So that's
right.
our company. Our core team comprises 9 members.
All right, so it's it's quite a lot of people for an indie development studio. And how did you actually come to create Tactical Troops?
Initially, Tactical Troops was a proof of concept for the Grail, the AI library that we were working on. Later on, we liked the game so much that we decided to add to it more content and release it as independent product. So firstly, there was only one multiplayer map with one mode. Over time, we added one new game mode, more maps, unit types, gadgets, and of course weapons. And lastly, we added story and single-player campaign. So here we are now, and we're planning to release a full-featured game.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're started developing a game as a tool to actually use for proving your other software, and then that game becomes now your one key project for you guys, and it's a kind of a different peculiar way of getting to the game market, because sometimes, most of the times, it's like, oh, I've got this cool idea for a game, and then you start building the game. This time it's been just a bit of a reverse process. How long did it take to actually, let's say, prove that the concept, that the game was actually working? Was it a long process? Was it a short process? How long did it take in general?
Mm-hmm. Well, the initial game idea was in my head for many years,
All right.
but I didn't have opportunity to make it happen. 2 years ago, when I started to work in QED after I pitched this idea as it matched well for proof of concept for the AI project. We started development of this proof of concept 2 years ago. It was June 2018, so 2 years ago, and it was playable after 3 weeks of development. So a very raw version of the game. It has only one map and one unit type, and only player could only move and shoot. But we all enjoyed it already, so it was a good start. In October 2018, we showcased the game on PGA. It's Poznań Game Arena. It's one of the biggest gaming event.
Right.
And the game's reception was very good. So this was the moment when we all agreed that this concept is worth investing more time in it.
Yeah, I have to say that when we first saw the project, I think one of the key things was, and I think you're referring to that, is that it's very easy to pick up and play, and it's very engaging when you start playing it. So I can see why it was immediately working. So it's not like one of the things that it's raw and clunky, and you have to sort of see how to make it work. It's more like, all right, this works, and then you have to perfect it and make it better. That's really what impressed us on Tactical Troops from the beginning. And you were in a nutshell, Tactical Troops is a top-down turn-based tactical game a la Door Kickers, in terms of just to make sure that everyone else out there knows what we're talking about, with interesting wiggle mechanics, and in a setting that's it's a sci-fi made up world. So it's something that you've created on your own, and you've decided to set it in a sci-fi world, and not in real world. And that's an interesting choice. So why did you actually do that? Why did you choose a sci-fi setting instead of a real life setting, for instance?
Mm-hmm. First of all, myself and are very big fans of sci-fi and also of military stuff. So and that's the first. And secondly, the basic game feature was the teleportation mechanic. So we had to choose between fantasy and sci-fi because
Yeah.
nowadays modern days there are no teleporters. But due to the fact that there is a shooting, so we decided that sci-fi. So sci-fi was an obvious choice for us, and I was very happy about it because I really love sci-fi, military sci-fi.
Yeah, I think when you have to come up with a sci-fi setting, you've got to draw a lot of inspiration from stuff you already know, and you've read in the past, and so on. And it's very hard to come up with something that's truly original or truly engaging because it is easy to copy stuff or to come up with very obvious things. So what were your inspirations in the creation of this sci-fi world, that maybe we can see some screenshots in the meantime so we can actually see what it looks like in the game actually.
Mhm. Okay, so in the game conspect, not the sci-fi, but while thinking about the game, our main inspirations was the first XComs, those from 1995, I think, those original ones, and Worms series. So I know it's different.
Yeah.
It's not obvious mix, but those are our main inspirations for the game. Also, the favorite of our lead developer, Jagged Alliance, and my favorite, Steward Heist, was also a good inspiration. Some of the mechanics were were inspired by, for example, Angry Birds. When you're throwing grenades, you're like using it like throwing birds through the slingshot. So it's quite
All right.
similar.
Yeah.
About the movement, I noticed Valkyria Chronicles is quite similar to this, but in the matter of sci-fi setting, there was a very plenty of inspirations. For example, Warhammer 40K and Starship Troopers from the family, and also I can't. I can't. Sorry, I can't recall.
Yeah, no, don't worry. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, the goal really is I see where you're coming from when you say worms, because some people might find it a bit weird, but when you play multiplayer matches in the game, I can actually see that what you're talking about, because it's that level of fun. I think it's that level of, like, you know over the top sometimes type of fun that you're having in a strategy game. And I still think that Worms is probably one of the most clever strategy games out there, since the beginning. And I see a lot of Laser Squad Nemesis. I see a lot of UFO Enemy Unknown in the game. There's a lot of classics being mentioned under the hood there. But at the same time, the game's got a lot of little touches that makes it really innovative, and that's why I think it's going to be very very interesting for our fans out there. When you start developing a game like Tactical Troops, I guess that you've got all these big inspirations in front of you, and you try to achieve specific things that they've done. What do you think were the sort of hardest things, the biggest challenges you had during the development studio, the development time,
Mhm.
that you faced?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was not the beginning of the production, but in the middle of it. In one moment of the development, after another feedback from independent testers, they complained about graphics in our game look flat. So we decided to move most of the environment objects from 2D to 3D. So units stayed 2D, while buildings, rocks, and other environment elements were changed to 3D. Uh, Similar like in the first GTA, first and second GTA games. Uh, we had to change the camera from orthogonal to perspective, and some of the mechanics started to behave weirdly, and every level had to be slightly reorganized. So this cost us a couple of days, but I think it paid off. And the second challenge, I think that as tactical troops had to be the AI show off. We had to push it to the limits here to show the AI possibilities. So because of that, we decided to bots are operating in continuous gridless movement space. So it was quite a challenge for the AI, and also the teleporters play a very important role in pathfinding, for example.
All right.
Environment can be moved or destroyed, some elements. So this was also a big challenge. So the bots have to discretize the movement space and find the best spot for shooting, for taking cover. So this was quite a challenge, and also movement of different kind of equipments that affects very intensively the gameplay.
All
So
right.
I
Yeah.
think those two elements was our biggest challenge in the development.
All right. I can see that. I can see that for for these are all challenges that are you're going to, I would say, learnings that you'll use for for the future, because these things are there will be new challenges for the next game, of course. So it's really cool to see that. All right, this thing I've learned it. I know how to do it now, and then let's move to the next one. What is interesting is that you're in a peculiar position now. You're basically beta. We're basically beta testing. And by the way, guys, if you want to be part of the beta test team, just go on the steering site, subscribe to the beta test, and we actually need help in testing the game out now. You're beta testing in the middle of a lockdown, and you've got to work remotely. So how's that affecting your pipeline and how you work? And is it that bad for you guys?
Well, for the beginning, it was a big challenge, of course, because we had to organize everything. We have to think about new workflows for many of things. So it affected especially tasks that coordination tasks that
Yeah.
coordination between plenty of people. It took us a couple of days to organize work and return to our normal workflow. But for individual tasks, as for example, for me, level designing or writing text, I think that it had no impact because I can focus here in the home. Uh, after we coordinate and plan our sprint, developers and graphic designers can focus and work in their own pace. So some of them work in the morning, others in the late evening. So that's one plus of the current situation. So I think that this really depends on task type.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, thanks for that. Here's some screenshots. We managed to finally sort of fix some issues we've got with the software we're using, and it's our first one. So guys, bear with us. We've got to understand how it works, and hopefully we'll be getting better in time. And by the time we're getting perfect, it's time to go back to the office and back to normal streams. So again, it's learnings for us. Rafael? Is there something that you're really proud of? That some big achievements, something in the game that you think really works very well, and you really want people to play it and say, right, I got this is perfect, this is working very well. What is it that you're most proud of in the game?
So, first of all, I'm generally proud of the people's reception of the game, and mostly, despite that, this reception is very good. Despite so, as in, for example, a modern XCOM, and it's mechanical copies. So I'm happy that players likes that gameplay experience, despite it's not common, very common. So that's one thing. And secondly, I'm quite impressed with what the AI guys did with the bots, despite of the challenges that stated before. They are quite the bots are quite huge, so not too easy, not too hard. Of course, sometimes they do something funny, but that can be easily observed in the game, in the turn-based game, and when the playfield is visible all the time. But I think that that I'm most proud of those two things. So the reception with the movement mechanic and shooting mechanic, and with the AI.
Hey, you got a picture of the team there. Nice.
Yes, it was PGA in 2018. So
That's
when
great.
we showed our game, yes.
You look happy.
I was. It was my first show off of the game, and as I told, I was very proud of the very good reception for the player.
I think it must be fantastic for an indie development team, like a small team. For first game, first time you show it to people and people are liking it. It's like, wow, I really achieved something, and it works, and so it's really cool.
Yes, it was fantastic feeling.
Must be really cool. And now we're going to see with the beta and with the sales, how if we're going to repeat that feeling. So we'll post a picture of you guys celebrating when we release the game.
Let's hope so.
Is there anything that you learned in the process? Is there anything key that you think that, right? If I had to sort of give any advice to a new team, I'd be giving this advice, or something that you retain for you for the future. Any key learning in the process that you want to share?
Yes. First and the most important, I think, test early and iterate everything. If you're coding prototype of some kind of feature, designing weapon or level, do the minimum viable thing for the start and show it to others as soon as possible. So you can add finishing touches later, but the fast feedback has a great value. And I'm telling this before because I had to change my mindset of this, because I many years I was a project manager and I wanted everything to be and organized and prepared, and the documentation should include many things. But the making game is a very creative process, so I had to switch to the more agile type of working. So test early and iterate everything. So that will be my first learning. And second, one, listen to feedback even if you don't agree with it. Maybe you can use a part of it, or maybe you only see other people's opinion, but listen to the feedback. Of course, tell your opinion about this feedback, but if the other people don't agree and he stands with his says and give sticks to this feedback, just take it and don't fight with it, and don't you don't have to agree with it. So
Yeah, you know, this is one of the key things in when we work with, especially in development studio with publishing, and then development studio with beta testing. It's always an exchange of opinions about the game. It's not about really, you really have to fix this. You've got your idea, the game is yours, and you end up, making decisions. But it's always hard to sort of distinguish between what is relevant, what is not relevant, what is an absolute must, and what isn't. So we tend to look at feedback as it's a very personal thing, but it's never a personal thing. It's really looking at something and giving your opinion about it. Doesn't mean that you're opinionated about that specific person who did it. So it's
yes, yes, exactly.
it's your work, it's your baby, so it's always hard to digest negative feedback when you put so much sweat and blood into what you've done. That's for sure. One of the things in the game that's actually peculiar, it's a turn-based game, which is, it's something that you imagined with grids and hexes or and whatnot, but you've opted for a continuous space in the game, and it's probably going very technical. But I'd like you to see, how did you face this challenge, and how this impacted your UI and user experience as well. How
Hmm.
did you manage this way of moving on the map?
Hmm. Okay, so most of the UI elements were traditional and weren't affected by this concept. We have unit lists, actions, the item speaker in the below, so there was no issue here. But of course, we had some problems with depicting all unique mechanics of the game. That is movement, shooting, and throwing grenades.
Yeah.
So in movement, we had quite. We came up pretty fast in showing how far unit can go with the movement circle. So this part was easy. Naturally, after some tests, we added the second one, the inner circle, that depicts how long you can move and perform an action, for example, shoot. And later in the development, we added outline showing obstacles that to help the players to see where the obstacles are. It was especially important from this top-down view, and it was great help for many players. So this is the movement part, but had another challenge with the shooting mechanic. It wasn't problem for us. For us, the developers, it was quite obvious, but many testers pointed this out. We didn't have idea about the weapon's accuracy. So, despite that, they had this information on the UI I think that initially it was percentage of the weapon's accuracy, but they didn't have clue how it will directly impact to the game. So we added two spread lines depicting the weapon spread. So the shotgun will have big spread, and the sniper rifle will have the smaller one. And this one, I think this one helped a lot. Throwing grenades was our biggest challenge. as we wanted the player to use his precision skills and to build some kind of intuition about the game, so he could have feeling that he's progressing and he's learning and mastering the game. So it was very important for us, and because of that we decided that the throwing grenades will be done similar as in mentioned before Angry Birds, by pulling a virtual slingshot and and then the grenade is thrown. This was a problem for newcomers, and because of that, we added an option to uh, to throw in to point in the throw direction. So it was easier to players for understand, but all of the testers who previously said that it's they don't like throwing mechanic. After they saw both solutions, they all preferred the first one with the pulling virtual slingshot. So
All right.
they all said that it's harder but much more rewarding. So they preferred this one. So we stayed with the initial concept.
Yeah, I think what you're saying here is basically, I think Edwin was saying in a chat earlier on that this throwing grenade thing has this feeling, this worms feeling to it, where you're always risking to blow yourself up. So it's
Yes.
that's pretty cool in the game, especially multiplayer matches. I mean, yeah, we're having a blast in actually enjoying a lot of these matches where there's always something very weird happening, and hopefully the guys are going to show it later on in the stream. In terms of the maps, Rafael, do you have any editor, any way to edit the maps and to upload your own content? Is it something you're planning to have in the future?
Uh, we're currently using the Unity, so it has built-in level editor. We use some small plugins, for example, grid snapping. So it's easier for making games where making levels where everything has to fit. But yes, we're thinking about level editor. It would be it would have a great value for the game, but unfortunately, not for the first release. It's not
Yeah.
planned for the first release, but
Yeah, you don't have to be shy in
we have
saying these
plans.
things. It's perfectly fine, and players out there really understand. I think the goal of the goal for release is really to release a solid game. You're a small studio, you want to release a solid game experience in single player and a fun, enjoyable experience in multiplayer. That's where we're focusing on right now, you guys, and I think it's working right well. And we'll see about growing the game in the future with more features and with more things. And we definitely we're going to keep the guys out there posted about it. So we've got the stream in a few minutes. So thank you for joining us, Rafael. I think it was a very interesting talk. You show the passion, you show the how close you are to your project, and I think it's good for people out there to understand when you're a small development team and this is your life. The game is your life. The game you're creating is your life. It helps people be a bit understand why you're making some choices, and how much you're listening and how much you want your game to succeed. And that's really the goal we have with the K project, to lead these games to better visibility, to more awareness, so that more people can try them and more people can enjoy them. So thanks for joining, Rafael.
Thanks. It was great.
And you guys are gonna have a test of Tactical Troops in 5 minutes. As a disclaimer, I'd like to say that all my pretty faces and funny faces during the stream have been courtesy of my colleagues pinging me on Skype every 2 seconds, saying, "You're smiling too much. You're too serious. You're just lean back, lean down, lean." And so it's been a fun thing. Also consider that our social media guy who's running this thing is in the Prosecco Valley right now, so he's probably drunk or half drunk. I'll leave you to the stream right now, and hopefully you'll have more questions. If you've got more questions, post them on the forum. Subscribe to the beta, and help us make this K project something that is sustainable and works for a long time. Thank you guys for following.